What's going on, everybody? Josh Engleman for Awesemo.com, and I am back with my top fives for FanDuel Week 4 in the NFL. Now be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Head on over to Twitter and follow me at Josh Engleman, only place you get updates to my sim results as we get closer to lock. Let me know in the comment section, who are some of your favorite plays at quarterback, running back, wideout, and tight end for this week? And finally, shout out to No House Advantage for being the presenting sponsor of this video. Use the promo code Awesemo when signing up. Get a little bit of extra cash on that first deposit. You can see the top defenses on the screen. Buffalo Bills coming in at number 1. But what we really want to know, who are the top tight ends, wide receivers, running backs, and quarterbacks? It is time to find out right now. Tight end on FanDuel this week is 2 guys plus everyone else. Mark Andrews, Mike Gesicki, Dalton Schultz, TJ Hawkinson, and Kyle Pitts are rounding out the bottom of the top 10. 3, 4, and 5 aren't that far away. And then we get to the clear top 2 options. First up at number 5, we've got Noah Fant. He's 5,700, projected for 8 fantasy points. Solid matchup against the Ravens. 8% chance to be in the optimal. Not a huge chance to go for north of 25 fantasy points. As I mentioned, there are 2 guys that can put up monster scores that become necessities on FanDuel. He's not one of those guys. If you're using someone like Noah Fant, it's a punt. Everybody, honestly, below number 2 is mostly a punt to me this week. Same story for number 4, Tyler Higbee, 5,900. I like the game script of this one a little bit more. Rams are slight favorites, 54.5 point total. Number 10 ranked defense at PFF for the Cardinals. 8% likelihood, though, of being in the optimal. I just like the idea of going to Higbee in a stack if I need to. Plenty of options to go around in this game. Similar story here at number 3 for $5,800 Logan Thomas, projected for 8.7 fantasy points for the Washington football team. 47.5 point game total, almost high enough. 28th ranked defense, though, for the Falcons. That seems good. You can stack up Logan Thomas with the rest of the football team guys. Maybe you bring him in a double with McLaurin. Clear bringbacks with Ridley and Pitts. If you want to go 2 tight ends, that is. Maybe not. Probably not the spot. But bringing back Ridley works. Either way, whether you're going to Thomas or Higbee or Fant, you know what you're getting here. You're hoping for touchdowns. If you don't get them, it's probably not working out. Now we're into the real options. 44% of the time, the optimal tight end is from one of the next 2 guys. George Kittle is in at number 2, 6,700, projected for 12 fantasy points, 52-point game total. That's pretty nice. Slight favorites here for the Niners. The 16th ranked defense. You would expect Seattle to be a little bit better on D. Doesn't appear to be the case, but, you know, that's PFF for it. Maybe they're 13th or 12th. But either way, middle of the pack. 2% chance to go for more than 25. 20% likelihood he's in the optimal. There are only 2 guys with monster ceilings at tight end for this slate. George Kittle is one of them. Closing it out at number 1, obviously Travis Kelce, 8,200, projected for 16 fantasy points. They're 7-point favorites with a 54.5 point game total against the number 13 ranked defense at PFF in the Philadelphia Eagles. He goes for 25 or more 13% of the time. 24% likelihood to be in the optimal. If Travis Kelce has one of his normal days, 8 for 100 and a touchdown, you're going to be really happy that you have him. Go ahead, don't overthink it. Make sure you're playing Travis Kelce. On to the wideouts now. A little bit of separation at the top, but it's relatively flat. Nobody breaking free too much. Julio Jones, Cortland Sutton, CeeDee Lamb, Calvin Ridley, Tyreek Hill round out the bottom of the top 10. I don't think anybody has a problem getting to any one of those 5 guys, but there are 5 guys that are better than that. The first of which is Cooper Kupp at number 5. He's now 8,600. That is a healthy price tag. Projected for 17.5 fantasy points. It's the great matchup. You expect a lot of plays against Arizona. 54.5 point total. You expect a lot of scoring. You expect Cooper Kupp to do a lot of it. 19% likelihood to go for more than 25 fantasy points, but just a 16% likelihood to be in the optimal. A lot of that has to do with the salary. Cooper Kupp's price is coming up dramatically so far into week 4. But even still, at 8,600, he's still the 5th best wideout you can get. Next up at number 4 is $7,100 Terry McLaurin, projected for 14.4 fantasy points. A lovely matchup from a DFS perspective, given how bad the Falcons defense is. 47.5 point game total. 7% chance of McLaurin going for north of 25. So you're expecting this basically like once a year. Hopefully it's this week. 17% chance, however, to be in the optimal lineup. 7,100 is a really nice price tag for this matchup, given everything that we've got going on for this week. McLaurin at number 4, one of my favorite plays of the week, given current ownership. We're attacking the Seattle defense once again. $6,900 Deebo Samuel in at number 3, projected for 14.5 fantasy points. That 52-point game total against Seattle looks really nice, and they're very easy for bringbacks. Lockett, Metcalf, you know it's going to be good on that end. 7.5% likelihood for Samuel to be in the optimal. No, that's not true. 7.5% chance for Samuel to go for more than 25 fantasy points. 19% chance to be in the optimal. That $6,900 price tag for this matchup is incredible value. We're in a tie at the top. Number 2, DJ Moore, 7,300, projected for 16 fantasy points in an excellent matchup against a crappy Cowboys defense, 24th via PFF. 51.5 point game total. Now, Moore is going to be 12% chance to go for north of 25. We're going to see a bigger number for the number 1 guy, but even still, the $7,300 price tag works. No McCaffrey, 22% chance he's in the optimal lineup. That is tied for the number 1 spot. And that ties with Davante Adams. 8,100, projected for 18 fantasy points. Now, difficult matchup against Pittsburgh. We're not going to lie. That's the number 4 defense at PFF. But the Packers are the number 4 offense as well. 45.5 point game total is not totally what you're looking for. You're hoping to be closer to the 50s. This would look a little bit better on a bye week. But even still, at 45.5, it still puts Davante Adams in that number 1 spot. 20% likelihood he's going to have more than 25 fantasy points. 22% chance he's in the optimal. I love the Adams and Moore pairing if you can get to it, because there are more than enough pay down options at running back if you need it. So, co-champs at wideout this week, Davante Adams and DJ Moore. Best of luck figuring out what to do at running back this week. This is as flat as it gets. Really, really efficient pricing. David Montgomery, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Antonio Gibson, and Ezekiel Elliott round out the bottom of my top 10. There is a little bit of separation here. We do take a step up in tier, but 1 through 5 are basically equals. Now at number 5, running back 6,300, Chuba Hubbard. Projected for 14 fantasy points, 51.5 point total, taken over at running back, at least for right now, against a defense that isn't particularly good. Great value here as far as I'm concerned. 5% chance to get 25 fantasy points, and a 17% likelihood to be in the optimal lineup. You want to go to Hubbard until Christian McCaffrey comes back, and that's not this week. Now, if you're interested in paying up at running back, Alvin Kamara certainly works. He's $9K, projected for 19 fantasy points. They get to take on the New York Giants. They stink. Saints are 7-point favorites. 42-point total. That lends me to think that the running game could be a little bit more important. That works for me. This is the running back section of the video. 28% chance that he scores 25 fantasy points. You're going to want him in that case. 18% likelihood he's in the optimal. I think the floor is super high here, but I don't think that he's giving up anything from his ceiling given the matchup against the Giants. Now, if we're looking for value at the running back spot, $5,400 Mike Davis works pretty well, projected for 12 fantasy points. This game is a coin flip, 1.5 point line, anybody's game. 47.5 point total, looks good. The football team defense is not as good as people were expecting it to be before this season started. They are 12th at PFF right now. Big games out of Mike Davis? Probably not. 2% likelihood to go for more than 25. But because he's 5,400, incredibly cost efficient, finds his way into an optimal lineup 19% of the time. That's a 3-way tie at the top. If you've got a little bit of extra salary, 6K Darrell Henderson makes for an interesting swap. He's projected for 13.5 fantasy points. It's a great fantasy matchup against Arizona. Lots of scoring expected, but you got to battle Cooper Kupp. You got to battle Robert Woods. 5% likelihood to go for north of 25, so a little bit bigger of a ceiling than you get for Mike Davis, but that same 19% likelihood of being in the optimal. That's where we're hitting the wall. 2 guys through. Who is the 3rd guy tied for the top? He has been exceptional as of late. I expect him to do it again here. Aaron Jones, 7,400, tied for the top at the number 1 spot. for running backs, projected for 16 fantasy points. Mildly difficult matchup against Pittsburgh. This is a real good defense. Their offense is equally as terrible. Maybe they'll get some good field position given the fact that Big Ben can't seem to do anything right now. 14% chance of going for north of 25. So this is where you go for ceiling if you're looking through my number one guys. 19% likelihood, though, of being in the optimal lineup. Whether it's Jones, Henderson, or Davis, I don't really think that you can go wrong. The real problem here is that just from a math perspective, even though all those guys are tied 1, 2, 3, 19% of the time, the most likely scenario is that none of them are in your optimal lineup. Finally, we're closing it out at quarterback. Sam Darnold, Russell Wilson, Taylor Heineke, Lamar Jackson, and Justin Fields round out the bottom of my top 10. We've got 5 more to go, plus a very clear number 1 option. So let's get to it. Just kidding. Before we get to those top 5 guys, one last reminder, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. Jump into the comments section. Let me know who some of your favorite plays or some of your least favorite plays that I've provided. Let me know who they are in the comments section. And again, shout out to No House Advantage for being the presenting sponsor of this video. Dak Prescott comes in at number 5, 7,700, projected for 21.5 fantasy points. He's scoring north of 25, 20% of the time. You're happy to stack him up with basically anything. CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, Amari Cooper, hell, Zeke, if you want to get really, really weird. It's a nice spot. 17th ranked defense for Carolina. Game total north of 50. What's not to like here? Easy to stack, and you can bring back a certain DJ Moore. Boom bust here, $8,200 Kyler Murray, projected for 23 fantasy points. The ceiling is massive, especially if he gets on the ground on his own. 33.5% chance to score more than 25 fantasy points. It's a great fantasy matchup in the aggregate for scoring, 54.5 point total. The problem is the Arizona Cardinals have a date with the Rams, the number 1 defense via PFF. So if they're going to do it, they're going to have to do it in a really tough matchup. But when it happens, I think Kyler has a lot to do with it. Our number 1 quarterback from DraftKings shows up at number 3 here on FanDuel, 7,900, projected for 23 fantasy points. Great matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs, the number 25 ranked defense at PFF. 54.5 point game total looks great. 31% chance to go for north of 25. But you can just see how easy it is to find other quarterback options. Even all of that, every single sign of this for Jalen Hurts points to something good. Still just a 10% chance to be in the optimal. Same game, opposite sidelines, $8,700 Pat Mahomes looking good here. 24.5 point projection. 7-point favorites for Kansas City, 54.5 point game total, and a 45% chance to go for north of 25. Look, when Mahomes goes big, you're probably bringing Tyreek Hill, you're probably bringing Travis Kelce along for the ride. There are some options you can bring back with you on the Eagles side, or you do it the reverse way and bring back your Hill or your Kelce, save a little bit of salary. But Pat Mahomes shows up in the optimal lineup 11% of the time. Even though the salary is big, I think there's enough value out there this week that you can pretty easily get to him plus another Chief. But the best thing you can do is save $200 there and go to Josh Allen, projected for 25.5 fantasy points in the best matchup you're going to find. This is the second worst defense at PFF. They are 17-point favorites against the Texans, 47-point total. The only problem with Josh Allen is that he might not play the fourth quarter because this is an absolute drubbing. Either way, he scores 25 fantasy points more than a coin flip, 53% of the time. And you can see he clearly separates from the pack. A 17% likelihood for Allen to be in the optimal. Josh Allen is your number 1 quarterback on FanDuel this week. Alrighty, folks, that will do it. Those are my NFL DFS contenders for week 4 in the NFL. I say the NFL a lot, but I want you guys to know this isn't an NBA video, and those things are coming soon. Anyway, DraftKings version of this video is around here somewhere. Make sure you're hitting that like button and subscribing and all that good stuff. I'll answer your questions in the video. Sunday morning, Sunday night contenders. You're going to have those as well. Good luck this week. I will talk to you later.